right?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what I do. It's so interesting. I was in one of my rehabs that I went to as a patient, and this one therapist came around and he said, "Brave, you are not who you think you are." What does that even mean, right? And I knew there was something there, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And if you would have asked me who I was, I would have told you, well, I'm a retail manager. I'm a gym rat. I'm a performer. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a son. And then I went on this little journey of trying to find out who I was. And one day in the shower, it kind of hits me. I'm like, fuck, I don't need to figure out who I am. I just need to be,
Yep.
right? And that's where it starts. But again, it's we have to have elders walk us through that and show us that there is a bigger purpose, that we are on our own, we'll never figure it out. And that's where I believe we owe it to the world, we owe it to the universe to do what we get to do as elders, right? Is to hopefully show someone and be there and show them, hey, your why is greater than what you think it is. So for me, how it manifests, I believe the meaning of life is relationships, right? Without relationships, there is no life, right? If you were by yourself on this planet, your life would have no meaning,
Yep.
right? Like no one to procreate with, like no one to talk to, right? So it is relationships, and it's about being real, and the legacy that we live is the impact that we make on each other, and there is the ripple effect, right? Every life that we touch, their lives of other people's are taught. Just like when I am sick, every life I touch, that energy goes outward as well,
Yep.
right? So my why is absolutely centered on being of service, right? I try not to use the word help,
Okay.
because help implies that I am doing something for someone that they can do on their own, and that there is a power differential. But when I'm being of service to you, I'm just serving you, and I'm just loving you, and I'm just allowing something else to work through me. And the what changes all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing though, you had mentioned that so we have everything we need inside of us, right? But at the same time, we also need the elders. We
Yeah.
need someone with wisdom. And so that's where like I start to wonder, okay, how much do I need to go to therapy? Do I need to go and hire this coach? Do I need to go and, do this? Or do I just do everything myself?
Right.
Do I just have everything myself? So where do we draw that line of, okay, I need help from XYZ, or I want this service that Brave is going to provide, or
Right.
I don't need Brave. I just have everything inside of me because that's what you're helping me discover anyways.
Right.
So how do we make that differential of when do I need someone? When do I just look inward?
Right. Both happen at the same time.
Okay.
It's both and, absolutely. Because, and we've seen that, I'm sure you've experienced that, right? You can provide all of the insight and all of the wisdom, right? Which is not ours, it's just the wisdom,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's not, it's something that is, it's called an awakening because we awaken to something that has always been there. It's like if I'm asleep, my eyes are closed, I can't see anything. If I open them, suddenly, like, hey, there's Shawn, right? Like I'm awakened to the fact that you're sitting right there with me, right? So this awakening that we are gifted to experience, right? We can provide the way, we can provide all of the tools, but if the person is not willing to look within them and do their part, nothing is going to happen, right? On the same hand, when the individual is ready, and I've seen this too, they're ready, right? They want to do some work. They're struggling where they're at, right? They want to change their paradigm, but there is no elder there. It doesn't happen, and that's more heartbreaking than the other one, I believe. And that's where, and that hits harder because, as people who have been gifted this awareness, we owe it, right, to each other to be able to make it available, right? And that's what we do. We just make it available,
Yeah.
right? And then we allow the universe to work through us and to use us in whatever way we're supposed to. And sometimes it's not seeing somebody all the way through. Sometimes it's just planting a seed,
Yeah.
right? But you need both. You absolutely need both.
Yeah. Just like when you say planting the seed, like someone that's listening to this conversation, the greatest thing that I know that I'm able to give right now is that someone that's listening to this will never be able to unhear it.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. And that's the seed that's being planted, whether you're listening to this today or in a year from now, right? It's finding you at the time that hopefully it needs to find you at the time that you're ready for it.
Right.
Or if you're not, then all of a sudden it clicks because it's in the back of the head, and then, okay, later I understand. And so, but also I wanted to backtrack just for a second, because one of the things that you had mentioned was all of these things that we think we want are from someone outside, right? The job, the career, whatever. And so how do you know when you're looking at your why, right? How do you know it's yours? Or how do you know it's from your heart? How do you know it's God's will versus someone else's?
Yeah. It takes practice. It takes intentionality. It takes humbleness. It takes missing it a lot of times to know what that feels like, right? At least in my experience, and what I've seen. For me, what that looks like, one of there are indicators, right? And one of them is as simple as whether I'm attaching myself to an outcome or not.
Okay. Yep.
The moment that I attach myself to an outcome, I know well, let me back up a little bit. Words are powerful, right? Like they have meaning and connotation, and sometimes we just use words and we leave it out there and we don't understand what they're doing to our psyche. The concept of free will, I think it is very misunderstood. Especially in recovery circles, right? Because a lot of people have this idea that their free will is a problem.
Right.
It's not. My free will is a gift. It will never be taken away from me. I was born with it. I will die with my free will.
Yep.
We are given free will for a reason. What is driving that free will is what we want to look at. Right? We love to say, well, that was my will, and that's bad. That was my higher power's will, and that's good. That's a problem, because my will is not bad, right? But what is driving it, right? So if I am allowing myself to be driven by outcomes, self-centeredness, self-preservation, self-engrandment, self-greatness, whatever self is, that is a will that is not going to produce results that I'm going to be okay with, because it's all driven by self. And I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be a part of a bigger picture because it's driven by self, right? If my will is driven by a greater purpose, by love, by compassion, empathy, inclusiveness, humbleness, right? Which is my awareness that no one is better than anybody, nobody worse than anyone, right? If I can work with somebody who looks like, because of circumstances at that moment in time, they're less than, right? Because they're homeless, because they're, drinking, because for whatever reason, right? If I show up and I am working from the awareness that I am no different, right? And that there is a bigger picture, a bigger purpose, that they're going to be able to do something for me in that interaction as well, right? Everything is going to be okay. I believe that's God's will. I believe God's will is love, unconditional love.
Yeah.
And I think it's that simple. I think when we start dressing it up with other things, I think is where we miss the mark.
Yeah.
And again, society for the most part is going to do that. I think that's by design as well. I think if an idea is really popular, I'd stay away from it.
Okay. What? That's where you've lost me just a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Popular ideas, for the most part, I believe they're driven by self.
Okay. So the iPhone is debatably one of the most popular things on earth right now.
Yes, I have one.
And so is that like, would you rather stay away from that because it's like, is that the same? Am I thinking correctly in terms of where you're like what you're saying and how I'm understanding it?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because I think part of living life, the human experience, from an awakened state, which is a state of love, non-judgment, purpose, meaning, right? It's the highest high that you can experience, right? All the time when you're there. Is looking at those parts of life that are necessary, right? And what role does that play? Am I going to allow that to play in my life, right? As being human on this planet means that we are going to have certain constructs that are there, right? Certain tools, technology, a lot of things that are part of our experience. Some of them very unjust, right? Like oppression, or judgment, or stigma, right? That a lot of us have experienced, right? That's there. It's part of the human experience, right? But am I going to buy into it, or am I going to navigate with it, right? Do I choose to have an iPhone? Absolutely, for a lot of reasons. Am I going to let that iPhone rule my life? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It serves a purpose, right? It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, but I'm not going to any extreme.
I'm understanding more of the intention behind why you are choosing to do the popular thing versus not do the popular thing. It's more about the intention behind it rather than the thing itself.
Right.
So even if you were to go right ahead.
Well, no, and a lot of, and on the surface level, right, a lot of the ideas that we may present are going to be very unpopular. Right. And again, I believe, and it's by design. I believe that if we are doing what we're doing, we it is going to ruffle some feathers, right? Because most people are going to be living life according to a lot of rules and constructs that don't support spirituality, right? The idea of success at any cost is very popular. Very popular, right? Even, even if, whether it's my own business or I'm working, right? Like, I need to be better. The whole concept of being better is a very popular idea in our culture.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't support spirituality.
Because spirituality is more of the idea of just the oneness of everything. So the collaboration as opposed to the, I'm going to tear your business down, that way mine becomes higher, rather than collaborating and we can both succeed together. That's what I'm understanding here.
Well, the moment that I start differentiating myself from anything, one being, I'm no longer full in my experience as a human being. Because what I'm saying is that I don't need you.
Okay.
And I need everybody to have the full experience.
It's true, but also difficult. It's like,
oh my God,
I drove by someone that was homeless on the side of the street today. And,
Yeah.
you know, like there are plenty of times that I've given them money or talked to them like as if they're a real person because they are. And I've also found myself, let me roll up the window, let me drive by as fast as I can, you know?
Yeah. Is it difficult? I mean, we're talking, now let's flip it.
Okay.
I need everybody, we're talking me acknowledging that I need the person who is still privileged, who doesn't want to see things different, who wants to hold on to their power, who may be causing harm to a lot of people, right? Trying to get their agenda, their business, whatever, right?
Yep.
Hurting others. And I'm saying that I also need them. And I do, right? Because I need them for contrast. I need them for perspective. I need them because they're part of my human experience. If I choose to have what I believe is a real human experience.
So we need, just like we were talking about before, there's no room, there's no reason to have that utopia. We constantly need that contrast. So the good, the evil, collectively we need both.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. There is a concept that you and I believe you're probably familiar with it, right? At some point in time in our journey of trying to develop a relationship and an awareness of the universe, we have to challenge our ideas, right? We have to challenge what we've been given, what we hear, other people's ideas of what a higher power may or may not be, right? And we have to start deciding who we want our higher power to be. Do we want a higher power that is exclusive, that is punishing, that is playing favorites? Or do I want a higher power that is everything or nothing?
Yeah.
Right? What is our choice to be? So if my higher power is inclusive of everything, it is inclusive of pain and tragedy and oppression and judgment. And I don't have to understand why at the level that my ego wants to understand.
Yep.
But in being able to embrace the fullness of it, I can have a full experience and get the benefit of it all. Sometimes, right, and again, right, the benefit of it is because without darkness, there is no light.
Yeah.
If we are to be channels for light, and there is no darkness, what is our purpose?
Yeah.
Right? We're not making it right or wrong. It just is.
Yeah. So even when many people to get to this level of thinking, right, they are searching for that ego death or using some type of psilocybin or something just outside of themselves to get to this level of thinking. And so how much of that do you even agree with or think is helpful, necessary to get to the level of thinking that you're currently at?
Yeah. So I believe that we're all able to go on a journey and continue to challenge our experience, our constructs, and go as far as we need to go, right? I think that the problem, again, is cultural. And the reason why I say that is because, unfortunately, we live in a very selfish culture, right? So we take everything and we make it about ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And the problem is that we've taken wisdom and enlightenment and awakening and we've made it about ourselves, right? And enlightenment for the sake of personal enlightenment is not enlightenment. I think it's a road to misery. And I believe that a lot of people go on that journey. Now, here's what's really interesting, right? What gets us started, this is how beautiful the design is, by the way. And this is how perfect it is, too, right? Because what gets us started is self-preservation. It's the selfishness, right? when any of us, including animals, are in a state of fear, we react, fight, flight, or freeze, right? It's very natural, right? And when we're afraid, we do whatever it takes to get out of that fear, even trying to look at spirituality. So it is about it starts very selfish.
Yep.
It starts as self-preservation. What gets me here is the pain. That's what gets me in. The pain and trying to get out of it, right? As I go on that journey, what keeps me here, hopefully, is no longer the pain and the fear, because you and I were talking, a lot of people stay in a spiritual framework, or what they think is a spiritual framework, still out of fear, right? And there is no freedom there, right? There is relief, but no freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So what keeps us on a journey of ongoing spirituality is no longer the pain, is a desire for relationship with that spirituality, for relationship with something greater, right? That is continuing to strengthen that relationship. And fortunately, right, the stronger we get into that relationship, the more we realize that life is not about ourselves at all.
Yeah.
Right? Which is it's the irony of it.
Yeah.
Right? That life really is about others.
Yeah.
Right? I think there is a reason why we cannot look at ourselves. Right? Like we have eyes that are fixed within our heads, and I can only look that way, right? Yep. And in order for me to complete the picture, I need your help to help me see what I can see.
Yeah.
Right. So it really, I think that the more we grow, the more we realize that it really is about others.
Yeah.
If we allow ourselves to grow. So, to start, sure, whatever gets you started. Whether it's the, peyote or whatever, the church. Whatever gets you started, but don't stop at relief, because it won't last.
Yeah, I had never heard it framed that way, and that's very helpful for me to think about, because I start to think about all of the things that meditation. You have this expectation. I want it to be this way. I'm looking for relief from all of these thoughts, rather than it's this ongoing journey and process. It's this one size fits all. It's this one stop, and then I'm healed. I'm cured.
Right. For whose sake?
Yeah, just for me.
Right.
Just for me. That's what. Yeah, that's what it is.
Right. Which is is very Western, right? Like we in doing so, and it's so interesting, right? Because I think that's where I think a lot of people end up, I don't want to say failing, but not getting the benefit of it, is because they never surrendered the idea that it was not about them, right? And we get into this journey, and it starts about ourselves. And it's because, and I have to say it again, it's because there were no elders to show them and challenge them, right, when the time was right, and help them see the evidence that, okay, I've let you make this about you for this part of the process.
Yeah.
Now, if you really want to get the full benefit of this, you're learning that it's not about you.
Yeah.
That it's about a surrender.
Yeah. And just like you talked about, that's the same thing with that ripple effect, exactly what you've been saying this whole time, right? And so one of the deeper things that I want to expand on is, you've mentioned elders continually, and you're feeling this pull of elder. And so can you expand on it a little bit more, of why we need them so much, and how do, even for me, this next generation, I have this essence and feeling of an old soul, an elder, just naturally attracting different conversations towards me, right? Something where I'm on the bus, and people want to talk to me. We're in the grocery store, and just like we were saying, these types of conversations may not happen a ton at the grocery store,
right?
But at the same time, like, I naturally attract those different types of
Yeah.
conversation, those different people that may need me per se in that moment.
Right.
So not just for myself, but someone that has more wisdom, expand on the elders more in your own way here.
And that's how you know that you're on the right path, right? Because you get all of these signals and you get all the evidence, right? And the universe keeps showing you that, hey, Shawn, like, this is your job, right? Like this is, the universe is investing through you, right? To be able to give to those around you, right? And it's an investment, right? And if you choose to take the job, right, that you've been called to do, then your life is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know that.
Yeah.
Right. And it is, right. Like you have all these connections and you see it and you feel it and you live it. But so elders are vital, because when somebody comes to you, right, or when you find yourself in that situation, that someone that you can have that one conversation, and sometimes it's just one chance that you get. Right? Which is why we have to be open to every chance and every opportunity, right? But when you have that one conversation, then you want to tap into your elder, your inner elder, and you want to be able to be that soundboard for someone, right? Where maybe they can start getting the idea that they are the creators of their own suffering. That their life is so much greater than what they make it to be.
Yeah.
That it's not their fault, right? That they're on a journey. And that there is a way out of the struggle. And that life is so much greater, right? And that it takes intentionality, and you can give them hope. And you can give them light. And that only comes as you've done your own journey, and as you share that wisdom that comes from within, that is not yours, it's not mine, it just is, right? And it only comes from that, and from an elder, right? And again, it's not about age at all, right? I've had elders to me that have been way younger than me, right? But something happens in that interaction where you trust them. Right? Like somebody that is trustworthy, somebody that has something for you. And that's hard to find in today's day and age, right? Because everybody has an agenda. So when you can show up as an elder, right, without an agenda, right, with love, unconditional love, without judgment, right, that can make all the difference in someone's journey. Right? And that's the job of an elder. A lot of professionals that have degrees that I get to work with, that I've seen, on my journey, can't do that. Can't do that. You'd be surprised how many, professionals are afraid to go there, to go to the darkness, to go to the shadows, to meet someone in their pain, to acknowledge and align with someone in that place that they're at that moment in time. They want to pull them out. Right? No, you need to be here. Instead of going there. And I believe that we can only go there if we are becoming elders.
When you talk about even going there to that dark place that this person may be in, is it affirming where they're at? Or is it, how do you approach like meeting someone where they're at?
So, affirming is such a clinical term, right? Because, and it's so fake. It's a closer term is genuine empathy, but it's more of a I've been there, you're not alone.
Okay.
I can walk with you through this. And and you and I are not walking alone either.
Okay.
There's a greater design. It's bringing in a faith and a trust that person doesn't have. Right. The person that you're working with, I shouldn't say work, but the person that you are having that interaction with, that conversation, that relationship with, it's there because they're scared. They don't see a way out.
Yeah.
They have no faith, right? So what you're bringing enough faith for the both of you,
Yeah.
right? Because you have experienced and witnessed the universe.
Yep.
Because you trust the universe.
Yeah.
And because you know that everything is going to be okay for you and them.
Yep.
Right? But it takes you becoming an elder, which is interesting because going back to, even the people, and I still believe that everyone should get arrested because it removes privilege and because we can align on that. But even people that have not gotten arrested, part of the human journey is having those moments of powerlessness and hopefully moments that bring us closer to an awareness of something greater than us. If every human would give themselves the opportunity to own that and not run away from it, right? Own even the moment of humbleness. Even if when we have privilege, own our privilege and be humble, right? Like, oh my God, I am privileged.
Yeah.
The humbleness in that awareness.
Yeah.
Right? And the powerlessness in the awareness that, oh my God, I have privilege that I didn't seek out, that for whatever reason, it's inherent to me. And wow, others don't.
Yeah.
Right? And God, how can you use that? Or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Right? So it takes people owning that.
Yeah. Even one of the first things that I thought of was, I look at myself as a man versus a woman, even in the gym, right? Like, I'm naturally stronger. There are plenty of women stronger than me.
Yes.
I'm well aware. But even something like that, and you start to have this different gratitude towards, okay, I can bench 225, where, the girl next to you may not, and she may never be able to. Well, she can, but it's going to be much easier naturally for me.
Right.
Than the 130-pound girl that's next to me.
Absolutely.
It just is. And so as we start to wrap up here, I also just want to get your perspective on gratitude and how much that is actually necessary, especially when you're going through a lot of different coping behaviors, addictions, and things of that nature.
Yeah. It's essential. But what I've learned about gratitude is that it can't really be forced, right? And it's more of an experience, right? Something that I've learned recently in the last few years is that whether it's gratitude, humility, love, again, in our Western mind, we love to think that we become humble, that we become grateful, that we become, right? And that's not the case, right? Because that's the self creating that, and it's not real, right? What I've come to realize in the last few years is that these are experiences that we can have. They're very experiential.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there is this door, right, that says gratitude, and this door that says humility, and this door, right, that says love or kindness, right? And if I allow myself to walk through the door, I get to be in that space, right? And gratitude is one of those that, for me, is an indicator of where I'm at, on my own spiritual condition and, my relationship with self and my relationship with others, right? Because when I'm not experiencing gratitude, and there are different levels of it, but when I'm not experiencing gratitude, I'm not being my true self. I'm being other versions of myself that I've been before. Or that I can still be.
Yeah.
Right? I can be entitled. Right? I can be indignant. I can be resentful. Right? And when I'm any of those things, there is no gratitude. Right? So gratitude happens for me, as a byproduct, but also I am intentional at experiencing it.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of what I do is, whether it's having this conversation, listening to other podcasts that, messages that resonate, that help continue to inspire me, being of service, prayer, intentionality, right? The meditation, that those things that I do to keep me in that space that is not supported by the world, right? By the messages of the world. So when I continue to do that, and gratitude, and I try to do a daily gratitude list.
Yep.
But for me, it's more of a reflection on principles and a reflection on what that looks like in my life.
Okay.
So it's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital, but it's also it's a byproduct of where I'm at.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the biggest things that people overlook.
Yeah.
They have, just like you were talking about the doors, there's so much gratitude, like through the door of wherever you are at, right? Just people are choosing not to look at that door at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think one of the biggest things, the more you can practice that,
right,
the easier it becomes as well. But that's with everything, right?
It's really interesting because, again, and it's part of the journey, right? It's so easy early on as we start the journey, right? When things have been so messy and things start to get our perception.
Yep.
Because life is life.